Ladies and gentlemen, from the depths of Stony Island, we present to you what had happened was season 4. What happened was season 4. Fantastic like Secret Wars. Questlove with the stories got him leaning for. It's what the hardcore fiending for. And now I'm covering you the scene before. We break it down, you can reabsorb. Bring it around like a meteor. We get it moving.
Where we left off, we're getting into y'all in the studio making the songs that will become Organics.
Mm-hmm.
Organics comes out in 1993. It's self-released.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you listened to that album?
Whenever it's Roots recording time, which now will be 9 years of us making this never-ending in-game album, I kind of force myself, when I know I'm going in the studio, I kind of force myself to get through like our discography.
The whole thing.
Well, I have a theory. I don't want to be that act that, there's conversation with like Prince and Madonna and Stevie, like people that are so linear and pushing forward. They do this whole like, we never look back thing. But okay, so you might not look back at your own work, but I definitely know that you guys are looking in the rearview mirror for who's behind you, about to, the weirdest thing that you could do in your career is to not look ahead of the road and then look in the rearview mirror to see who's behind you.
Mm.
And the thing is, the person behind you that's in your lane, 9 times out of 10, they grew up listening to you.
Right.
Like the way that I listen to De La Soul, the way that I listen to Tribe Called Quest, the way that I listen to the music I grew up on. It's almost a 99.44% chance that you are creating something that's derivative of that artist. So
that you grew up listening to.
Right. And so my thing is like, okay, so if you don't want to be the person that gets stuck with the same sound and that sort of thing, then why don't you be the new artist that sponges off of your own supply?
Interesting.
Like, why don't you do that? So first of all, when we eventually release a new record, you can't rely on the legacy of the 17 records that came beforehand. You gotta, we're pretty much releasing Organics again. Like, this is our first album in 9 years.
Right.
And so I think what I should at least do is listen to the Roots as if I'm a new band that's going to use the Roots as their idols to make new music. So
the last time you heard it, what did you pick up on, since you're listening from that perspective?
Yeah, of course you're going to be super analytical. And it's weird because I too, like, I'll nerd out on an artist, and I'll give you an example, like Shaka Khan, her album Ask Rufus, that's like my North Star. That's one of the most important records of my life and my development. So I'll nerd out and ask her about a certain song. I once asked her, like, yo, so like, your harmony structure on like Close the Door, like, tell me about, like, what was it like there? And you're praying for like some sort of romantic folklore,
right,
of like, I was there and then the inspiration hit me, and then, and it's never that scientific or whatever. Matter of fact, she was like, oh God, Close the Door. All I remember was, her ex-husband Richard and Andre Fisher, the drummer, having a fist fight in the bathroom and tearing up like the boundaries that hold the tour, So in her mind, that's one of the most like violent times and volatile times in the group's history, which actually adds to the tension of the group's record. So for me, when I hear good music, I'm thinking of, okay,
specifically the song "Good Music."
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, when I hear good music from Organics, I'm thinking about that's the last time I had a normal Thanksgiving at my family's house. I'm thinking of like the last time I had my grandmom's leftovers. Like, recipes and music are sort of generational things that might not get passed down.
Right. They stop at a certain point.
Yeah, that level of soul food, like my aunt Laura, my grandma, I'm like 92, that was like their last era. I'm remembering that I brought Cool Like That in the record store. So my memories of like how songs got made trigger off different memories. And so I'll say that what really pushed it forward to where you would know who the Roots were was how Malik B entered the group.
Interesting.
And so what happens is we have Pass the Popcorn, Anti-Circle, the Pass the Popcorn remix in the bucket during Black Friday of November 92. We knocked out Good Music and Common Dust. So we have like, we were going to make a 12-inch, but now it's like we got 5 songs, so let's make an EP.
What's the intention though? Like in terms of, and this is Richard and AJ putting this together?
Yeah, in AJ's mind, he's like, let's just release a 12-inch and then we're all going to get rich. And then, but he's like, you guys sound too alternative, so we should do a normal sounding hip hop. So he wants to also use us as a platform to get his production skills off.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, kind of production wise, there was a little bit of, nah, this don't sound like Pete Rock enough, or this doesn't sound like, in my mind, it's like, you got to beat the level of Pete Rock, Premier, Tip, like that level of thing. And the production side of us sounding normal, like even in doing remixes to, so there's at least like in the can, there's like 5 Pass the Popcorn releases that we tried to make sound normal that didn't sound dope enough, or at least to our standards.
Mm-hmm.
So when January of 93 comes, Malik, who meets Tariq, and I guess Tariq can tell you the story of them in college at Millersville. Malik, I think he was either Sunni or an Ansar Muslim, but whatever the case was, he was coming, he was leaving his mosque, and a gentleman approaches him, and he's Philadelphia jazz-based legend Jamal Adine Takuma. And Jamal Adine Takuma is sort of in the school of like the 70s jazz movement of like James Blood Ulmer. James Blood Ulmer is playing, if you remember Water on Phrenology. We did like an 11-minute free jazz thing. James Blood Ulmer is like a kind of radical Sonny Chirac-esque crazy guitarist. In like that whole thing that Vernon Reed started with Greg Tate, the Black Rock Coalition.
Coalition.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's kind of in that clique. So Jamal Adine Takuma is planting these seeds about like, you know, over in Europe, there are festivals. And, you know, all we know is like Lollapalooza. Like America doesn't know, we know it now, Coachella and that stuff, but over in Europe, there's over like 500 festivals and all over, you know, that's how half the rappers now have to fly over there in the summer to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's curating this festival in Moors, Germany. And he tells Malik B, like, I've heard about you guys, like, you know, my son sees you guys on, you know, South Street and all that stuff. And they gave me a budget. I want to take you guys to Germany with us. And so basically, Rich's job is less as the record label, more of a strategist, because through us he sees a potential. In Rich's mind, it's like, because Rich is also a well-known jazz DJ at RTI and Temple University. He's into like a lot of like, you know, Archie Shepp, like free jazz, spiritual jazz, like that sort of thing, like Doug Karn and you know, those guys are just well on like the avant-garde jazz stuff. So he sees us as like somewhere in between Public Enemy and Pharoah Sanders. And he knows that jazz musicians can make a good living. So his whole thing is like, I want to give these guys, I don't want to give them like the rap dream, the carrot on a stick, make a hit single, and then you're disposable. Like, I want to market them. They're a rap group, but I'm going to market them as a jazz group and get them on the jazz circuit.
Right.
And so, long story short, basically, we now know that we have one gig in Moers, Germany, in the third week of June of 1993.
Mhm.
So it's now February. As a thank you for hooking us up with this gig, we're like, well, damn, Malik got to join the group now. You want to be in the Roots? Because by this point, Joshua had to go back to Illinois.
Mhm.
So Rich's solution was, I was like, yo, we don't have a bass player. What do we do? What do we do? We had some bass players on and off, and then he had a partner named Leonard Hubbard, who was like, Dr. Professional. I went to college and, conservatory school. So he agreed to be the Roots' bassist, but kind of on a stipend. Like, we had to have him on
Retainer.
a consistent retainer.
Yeah.
And instead of like coming in on the ground floor, like, hey, you want to be in this band with us or whatever? It's kids, that's sort of like, he was just like 20 years older than us, and like that was always the response. And then, in 92, 93, like, if you just remember like the whole era of like, the 5%er and that sort of thing, and like Kenyatta Crumbs just kind of went through this sort of evolution where it was like, he just basically didn't want to be in the group anymore because, like, we weren't living at our highest level. Like, I don't know what spiritual jargon that he kicked, but he pretty much was like, I can't be like working with all these devils and all that stuff. So he was going to hang with the gods, like, where, like, that's kind of like how I took it to be. Like, he's realizing like, oh, in order for us to make it, like, we got to work with black people and white people and that sort of thing. And in these clubs and nightclubs, and he's like, nah, man, this is savage. Like, I'm God. Like, I can't do it. So he kind of left. So that left a space open. And Tariq and Malik, both knew each other from Millersville University. And so Malik got us this game. I mean, it wasn't game changing. Like, it was like a $5,000 gig. And by that point, we were just working for pennies, and like, we were working enough just to keep Hub on retainer and, and have a turkey sandwich or two and a date night. But it was like a $5,000 gig. So Rich was like, okay, so instead of doing a single and an EP, let's make a full-fledged record, and we'll print up copies of this record, and we'll sell this record over in Europe when we do this gig, and that will help us. And subsequently, we're going to also use this record as our demo to get a
signed.
real record deal.
Okay.
And so pretty much that's how, like, the rest of the album just gets fleshed out, like the Leonard part 1 to 5, all that stuff. We just basically spent all of February and March knocking off song after song after song after song after song.
Was the process, I mean, so it sounds like the process of a lot of this is just you kind of having musical ideas and y'all building around that in the studio. Is that kind of consistently how the rest of the songs came together?
I did not know how to songwrite. So it was just like, give me 5 minutes of silence. I'll think of something in my mental Rolodex. So literally, like, if the Roots is coming is I had a copy of James Brown's In the Jungle Groove. So that was like, that was James Brown's Got to Move. Pass the Popcorn, I explained, was like the Pick Up the Pieces Live. Anti-Circle was James Brown, Stone to the Bone. Writer's Block, it was just like, hey, show you guys do poetry too. Because the thing was also, the I don't like rap, but I like you guys thing was real.
Right.
So some nights it was like, yeah, we have a poetry ensemble from Philadelphia called, the Root. And
to this day, my dad he calls me a spoken word artist.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
wrap his head around it.
Rap artist was like a 4-letter word back then. So basically, like, Writer's Block was from Tariq's, days as a poet. Look, you know, when we're doing the coffee shop chick thing, it's like and you're missed and dun 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 and fun and sister, I see you and I smell your shade, brother, and da 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 da. Like even I was doing stuff like I was writing stuff like, as long as it results with me getting some joints done by the end of the night. Yeah, I too will repeat your essence, and like that was me at every poetry like slam. Good music was based off of I gave a hypothetical example of Shaka Khan doing Close the Door, but literally like that's what it was. Like, okay, let's do Close the Door by Rufus. So there's a point, I forgot the most important element of the story was Bizarre Ride to the Far Side came out in late 1992. And, you know, the Your Mama video came out and I was lukewarm on it because I was like, man, y'all use Synthetic Substitution by Melvin Bliss as your drum thing. Like, that's whatever. So I was just like, it's whatever. And I remember, like, if you remember, like, that was a time period in which, like, a rap record could change your life.
Yeah.
And the days of, like, Tariq calling, like, yo, dog, America's Most Wanted by Ice Cube. We would just sit and have discussion. Joe, our manager, said, yo, y'all. He's like, this Bizarre Ride to the Far Side might be a problem. And I was like, really? The Your Mama guys? He's like, dog, man, this is a song called For Better For Worse, man. You got to hear this thing. And I was like, I'd look at it. I didn't like the fonts. I was like,
wait a minute.
That's how that,
you font critical?
Yo, dog, I font shame many a motherfucker, yo. And I just looked like, whatever. So I listened to it. And yes, I will say that the Fender Rhodes is, in my DNA, but for some reason the Fender Rhodes just sounded like brand new, as if my dad didn't have a Fender Rhodes inside of his house. But the way that song sounded, it sounded like you were being immersed underwater, and the way that the Rhodes sounded, I was just like, "What's that sound?" And Rich is like, "It's a Fender Rhodes." I was like, yo, we need that sort of sound in our group. And so the story of Richard is that Richard would often do these music projects because he was at Temple University. Hub, our bass player, and Richard were also like Temple University alumni. So they would write government grants to get funding to teach neighborhood kids how to make beats.
Brilliant.
Right? You write a grant, and then the government sends you $10,000, you pocket $8,000, and you buy some equipment.
Hang out with some kids for a couple of weeks.
Right, exactly. But they were kind of serious about it, like building. They were really they were part of that 70s generation that believed in a community and that sort of thing. So there were two people inside of this like campy thing of teaching people. One was Shorty No Mas. That we know through the De La Soul, he's managing, they're managing her and trying to do something with her, and they got De La's attention that way. Right. And then there's this white boy that used to just sleep on Richard's floor night after night, and you ask him to play any song and he would just play it, like again, the novelty that people felt with me, like playing break beats. Right. That's what it was like watching this guy. Like, he could do anything. Scott, play Stevie Wonder. And he started playing Stevie Wonder. We like high-fiving each other. Like, yo, all right. Play Grover Washington. Play just the two of us. And we were like, yo, like it was like watching a human sampler. And Leonard Parts 1 to 5.
That's my joint.
We were just like, Scott, play something. And literally, it just, I played him For Better For Worse. And like, just the way they used reverb and all that stuff, and the way the Rhodes sounded, I played it for him for like, and I still do it to this day. I won't play it long enough for you to like actually learn the chords. I'll play it for like 10 seconds and stop it abruptly, and then I'll say like, all right, what do you feel? Like, what do you think you just heard? And they were like, well, play it again so I can learn. I said, no.
It's the feel.
You got the idea.
Yeah.
Now play. And he would just do it. And I was like, that's it. Roll the tape. And then literally we have an A part and a B part. And that's kind of how Scott Storch joined the Roots.
Wow.
And so now we're a fivesome. And we go to we eventually get the album done. We print it up. We decided to do the whole Beatles black album, all black album cover and that sort of thing. And from June of 1993 all the way until December of 1993, we went through the craziest close but no cigar moment with every record label. Started with Def Jam. Yo, Def Jam heard about the groups. Because Rich's whole thing was like, we also got to save money for publicists,
right? And
send out. So we, like, Blue Note Records had a Kimberly Northworthy. We slid her some money, and she typed up a bio. We had an 8x10 photo. Talked about how we conquered Europe, one city, more is Germany. But we like. So we sent out these press packets and whatnot, and we did the occasional. What do you call it when you got to do like an audition, like a showcase, that sort of thing. We started with Def Jam, and then it would be the same drill. We'd meet with Def Jam. They would take us to dinner, expensive dinner, and then talk about, okay, we're going to do a showcase next week. We get the show ready. We do the show, and then Def Jam takes us back to the office. And all these free records. Wait, I can just, all these 12 inches? Like, now I have like, all this, whatever that like hardcore rap was that they signed. Like, I'm walking away. And then a week later, it's like, yeah, Leora loves you guys, but we don't know what to do with you guys. Like, they love you guys are great live, but we don't know exactly what to do. So then, same with Tommy Boy, same with Elektra, same with East West Records. So it just became this whole thing of like, the call, really expensive dinner. I like the guys, showcase, come by the office and see everything and see everyone on the wall. Oh man, this is the 3V Horizon Platinum Plaque. And then the call like, we don't know what to do. So it became a thing of ups and downs. And then September of 93, finally, Kenyatta Bell of Mercury, the same gentleman that signed Black Sheep, was like, I like the group. And Ed Eckstein's son, Ed Eckstein, the president of Mercury, who's the son of Billy Eckstein. There I go. That guy. Are like, we want to sign the Roots. So this is what happens. September, we get the contracts to Mercury Records, and we're excited. And they took us on the video shoot to the Legion's Jingle Jangle. And
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know Jingle Jangle?
I do not know Jingle Jangle.
Yo, dog, it was like, trust me, it was a thing for like half a second.
Okay.
So we're on the video shoot. We meet Drez and everything. And we're just like, yo, we're like Native Tongues adjacent. This shit's going to work, yo. This shit's going to work. So what winds up happening is they send us the contracts, right? Now, you got three principal members that have these like long Arabic names. Malik, Abdul, Bassett, and Tariq Luqman Trotter and Mir Khalib Thompson, whatever. So I guess the way that the contract world works, if one name is misspelled,
then the whole thing's,
well, it's not. If one name's misspelled, then your lawyer can cross it out and you got to do the initial thing like I witnessed it. But if all three names are misspelled, then they're like, okay, you guys got to get the proper names and send us so they resent us the contract. So here's the problem though. They sent us these contracts on a Wednesday. We see the mistake. We let them know on Thursday. They're like, look, just tear it up. We'll send you the contract on Friday. You sign it. FedEx Saturday it to us, and blammo, you guys are on Mercury. the assistant to whoever does the contracts forgot to do it on a Friday. And it's like, no sweat. Just come Monday, we'll give you the contracts, and then we'll be good to go. So that Friday, our lawyer calls and says, hey, not for nothing, guys, but there's one more suitor that just stepped up to the plate.
Wow.
And we're like, dog, we went to the Jingle Jangle video. Like, we met Drez. Like, I'm already dreaming. Not to mention, we had already made a connection with Giles Peterson.
Okay.
Very crucial part of the story. Giles Peterson is basically the John Peel, the tastemaker of Europe.
Absolutely.
So if you look up like worldwide, he named his, radio show after our song Worldwide.
Really?
Yeah. Like, so what John Peel had done for rock music for 40 years, that's what Giles Peterson was doing for left of center. Back then it was acid jazz, there was neo soul, and like the first time anyone in Europe heard of an Erykah Badu or a Jill or a Roots or a Dilla or anything, like it goes through him first, and he has a platform which is basically BBC Radio 1. So millions of people are hearing those. That's why artists have long life over there, because there's no there is underground radio, but he's on a major platform.
Right.
So he's already like, he had already got a copy of Organics and pressed it up himself back when you couldn't press up a record, and so he had already started a buzz for us. So it's like, yeah, we're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So he says that Wendy Goldstein of Geffen Records, her claim to fame was that she A&R'd and signed Snow, Informer.
Oh okay.
Right. So off the success of her signing Snow to East West Records, Geffen Records, who at the time had Nirvana,
Right.
Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, Beck, like they are making like $800 million a year just off their starting lineup. And they want to start an urban department. They had one, but whatever, like it never came to fruition, but they're now serious. We got to start an urban department, and Wendy Goldstein's going to run it. And she's like, guys, I would love to sign you. So the deal is like, look, we know we're going to sign to Mercury, but by that point, we love the whole courting process.
Right.
Going to the
Let's
most
go to
expensive.
dinner. Yeah.
Right. It's like, yo, we're going to go to Lebec Finn or, Bookbinders. We're going to order. And this time we're being ignorant with it. Right. We're like, yo, can we get like 3 extra steaks to go? And like 4? Like, we have no shame whatsoever. We go to like Wendy's office and like, wait, you can have a refrigerator inside of your office? And we looked at all those orange juices, and the second she went to the bathroom, we're like stealing all the orange, like lifetime supply of orange juice and all these famous Amos cookies and all these pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of like snacks in the office, we never seen that. Right. So we were just like, we went there and did the food thing, and mid conversation, Rich went to the bathroom and I followed him in the bathroom. I said, yo. I said, dog. I said, you know what we should do? He's like, what? I said, we should pull a helmet. So, it's 1993. Grunge is at its absolute height.
Mm-hmm.
Nirvana just released their second album, so it's like everyone's grunged out. Everyone's wearing like
flannels,
fucked up clothes and all that stuff. So there's a group called Helmet, and they famously had a bidding war for 7 figures. They signed to their label for $1 million.
Wow.
And, that was like a big deal. Like, Seattle band Helmet signs a deal for $1 million. And I was like, yo, dog, we ain't got nothing to lose. So, I said, what are we getting for, Mercury was going to give us like $140 million. Just to put it in perspective, 3 Feet High and Rising was made for $25,000.
Wow.
Cypress Hill made their debut record for $40,000. So basically, like, rap records, the records that raised us were so redheaded stepchildish that it wasn't like In Vogue's Funky Divas. It was made for $2 million. Michael Jackson's Dangerous was made for $10 million, but 3 Feet High and Rising was made for $25,000. I mean, not to humble brag, but I won't even get out of bed for that for a DJ gig. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, I was just like, yo, we ain't got nothing to lose because it's Geffen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who the fuck's gonna be on Geffen? Fuck that. Like, let's let's pull a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got ignorant. We were like, yo, he started off like, we need like at least 3 cribs. Like Amir got to get a place of his own. Tariq got to get his own place, and the Hub needs a spot. And we want a Pathfinder, and we need like home studio equipment. Like Scott needs equipment. Da da da. I mean, like it was like everything but a partridge in a pear tree.
Mm.
And we were just like, so that's what we need to sign to this label. Huh. And went home. And Sunday night, right before that contract's about to come from Mercury Records to us, Brad is calling. I never got a 911 like 4 times on my pager.
Oof.
It was like, oh, somebody died.
Right.
I was like, what's up? It's like, yo, emergency meeting now. And Brad says, so I did what you guys said. I called their bluff. And, actually to add to the pot, he did some like lawyer shit where the lawyer equivalent of that, like instead of us having to be locked down for 15 years, he was like 6 years.
Mm.
And what he most cleverly did was, and if they make the first record, you got to keep them for the second and the third record.
Mm.
If they make the 4th record, then you got to keep them for the 5th and 6th
I
record.
never even heard of nothing like that.
So the reason why in any other lifetime we would have gotten dropped when Distortion and Static came out, we wouldn't even made that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But he was just like, she fell for it. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, she agreed to everything and more. And I was like, so what does that mean? He's like, well, we can either go to Mercury or we can go to Geffen. And I was like, so what do we do? Like, Kenyatta is like family. And dog, we went to the Legion Jingle Jangle video. Like, and Rich had to be the bearer of bad news. It Hail Mary throw, and we caught the ball right in the end zone, and we signed to Geffen Records instead. And that poor assistant, I believe she instantly got fired. Like, Kenyatta was like absolutely livid over that. And that's in November of 1993, we finally signed with Geffen Records. And
wow.
that's really the beginning of Do You Want More?
Now, I want to end this with one question just based off of that. And you kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to bring it back around to it. So you signed in November of 93. How soon after this does your dad find out that this is what you are doing?
So the first thing that Rich wants to do is like, he wants to do a big giant press splash, like the Roots get signed to da-da-da label. And the Philadelphia Inquirer wants to interview us, and they're like, yeah, and we're going to put you guys on the cover of the Sunday section. So this is like our version of the New York Times. Like, there's no internet. So pretty much most Philadelphians start their life and their week with the Sunday paper.
Right.
And not to mention, my advance was, back then, like, to be from a guy that only wanted a good turkey sandwich and date night to suddenly like given a substantial amount of cash. The first thing I did was I went to Foot Locker and purchased every color combination of Pumas I could get. Like, I came home with like 12 boxes of Pumas. Right.
And so your family's concerned at this point. Like,
well,
what are you
I just
doing
had, that's the first thing they noticed. They're like, wait, how do you, I came from a household in which like one pair of sneakers lasts you for at least 9 months to 2 years.
Right.
And wait, you had greens. Wait, where you getting all these sneakers from? And then it was like, yeah, got a record deal. And then, well, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
And yeah, this Sunday we're having a signing party. And literally, like, the thing I also wanted to hold back was like, parents often have this thing in which they intentionally or unintentionally like push off their fears of their own paths and their journeys
Sure.
onto you. And, my dad had somewhat of a spark at the beginning of his career, enough to sustain the level that I got. There was one time in 73 in which he formed a group with my mother called Congress Alley, which the album came out and really didn't do much, which is weird because one day when I'm watching the Nothing But a G Thing video, I hear this in the background. So literally, that sample, just chill to the next episode. Oh, yeah. Like, I was like, yo, that's my parents on Nothing But a G Thing. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's basically, they signed, they were going to be like the next Fifth Dimension or Friends of Distinction, and nothing came of it. So I think, again, when you're raised in a fight or flight atmosphere, it was the crack 80s, their whole thing was like my safety. Like, we have to put him in private school, get him into college so we can get out of here in this situation. And we're really not from the generation that's taught to dream. And okay, well, let's see what's for his thing, it was like safety. I had a plan for safety. You were going to study, conservatory music, and that was the plan. And I had dreams too. And so and he was really disappointed that, like, there was nothing like the disappointment of coming home from that night. And I gotta admit, we kind of overdid it because, again, we started off like on the street corners and we're a community group, whatever. And then suddenly you give us the advance that we got, and now Tariq's wearing this like this imported leather jacket. Like we walked on stage like if you remember this scene in the Hate Me Now video with Nas and Diddy where they're like, no, we didn't have like the fur coats and all that stuff in the club or whatever, but you clearly saw like, oh, they got money now. Like I'm rocking, like I'm early to the game on like hockey jerseys. That was the thing back then. And instead of my little rinky dink, little train that could drum set that's like falling apart, I went and brought like a Neil Peart from Russ, like a 20-piece. Like these rototoms that are like, you need a GPS to like start to like, and that night was just like, Bowser, Shandon, and whatever, like, yo, this is our celebration party. What's up, y'all? Yeah. And they're like, wait, what happened to like the little boho group?
What happened to the community guys?
Where's your Birkenstocks, Amir? Like, I'm rocking two Pumas, like a blue one and a red one, like, and it was just like, that was jarring for my dad. That was jarring for everyone in the audience that night. Right. You know what I mean? But that was our flag planting moment. So I'll say that even up to, like, I remember coming home once from the Proceed video, and he's still like, you still got to get a real job. Like, you can't just stay here. And I'm like, Dad, I have a record deal.
Like a whole major label.
Right. And he's like, well, this cable bill has to be paid off and da-da-da-da-da, and da-da. And he really, I'll say that, I think it was my cousins that kind of hipped him to the fact that, like, no, Amir's really a thing. Like, but that was when Things Fall Apart was out. Right. Like I'm on MTV in the afternoon, if my little cousins are like, is Cousin Amir coming for da-da-da-da-da? And, showing them a magazine or that sort of thing. So Dad's sort of like, oh, okay, so he's safe.
He's safe.
And, also it's like, here's the keys to your car, Dad, like that sort of thing. So that helps. So, but yeah, it took him a long time to just acknowledge. And I'm certain that there was also like a professional jealousy thing going on. which, you know, you're so in denial of it then, because like, of course, like, why would you give me all this education? Like, what did you think I was going to do with all this education you taught me since the age of 5? Like, of course I'm going to manifest into Questlove. Like, you literally built me. And, you know, so it was, what I will say though is, like, that is one of the most, what was around the corner for us. Like, in our minds that night, it was like, whew, we made it. Nah,
yeah.
Wait for the Do You Want More years, man.
Well, then we'll leave it there for right now. Wow, that's a lot, and we're gonna make sure along this journey that we check in and see how your family's dealing with every level of success. I think
I got stories for you, bro.
That's a good through line.
Yeah.
But we will catch y'all next time where we pick up with Do You Want More?
Is this where that theme comes into play?
Right there.
Stony Island Audio.